Okay, so this is a nice way to finish the day with the extraordinary poetry and art combined with Mary. And I did want to include this remarkable dance event occurring in the 1960s with Jean and her production of a performance based on Finnegan's Wake, a dance based on Finnegan's Wake, okay? A seemingly utterly impossible task that, of course, she had a little help with, because Campbell's first book, 1944, was a skeleton key to Finnegan's Wake. And the goddesses all through that book. And the primary manifestation of the goddess in 1944 was Anna Lithia Pluribel and her central role in the phases in the life of the goddess. And I'll say more about that in just a second. But this is a wonderful picture of Jean. And she had the most remarkable grace. I met her beginning the flight to Egypt when you were allowed to go and sit, in the waiting room with your family before you got on that plane. And the way she walked across the room to get a Coke for Joe was quite an impression. And it was difficult over the years to find, in collaboration and conversation with Bob Walter, the executive director, was there a recording of this remarkable, it was an international phenom. It went all over the world, the Coach with 6 in size. And then it came back to the United States for another run. And I finally found a YouTube interview with her that has, about 20 minutes of the dance. We'll see how we go when we get to it. But the interview starts with her, and a remarkable woman, a remarkable presence, with many important additions to the modern dance repertoire, inspired by various goddesses and myths, which are quite extraordinary. So I do have a clicker. And the curious thing that I finally realized with Anna Lithia Pluribel as the special manifestation of the archetypal energies of the divine feminine in Finnegan's Wake, in which the relationship between the father and the daughter is so mythically, archetypally complicated, not to mention personally. And that it goes back to Joyce's own daughter, Lucia, who you'll see here in the center. And on either side, as a young woman, her aspirations to be a dancer and to create dances, and quite remarkable postures. And the sad fact of the matter, however, was that she was severely schizophrenic. And she was sent to Jung, and she came back with the news that Jung was a fat Swiss, and that the whole source of her problems was him. It's the father that's schizophrenic, because Jung had tried to read Ulysses with no degree of comprehension whatsoever, and then write an authoritative essay on it. It's one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of Jung's output. So there were important tensions in Zurich at that time in this relationship. And I love this little quotation from Finnegan's Wake. It's old, it's sad, it's old, it's sad and weary. I go back to you, my cold father, my cold, mad father, my cold, mad, fiery father, till the near sight of the mere size of him, the moils and the moils of it, moaning makes me seasick, all I rush, my only, into your arms. And these are the final part of the dance, when Anna Lithia Pluribel is started up in the mountains above Glendalough, overlooking Dublin. She's the maiden, the spring, the freshet, the brook that's coming down from the mountains in her virginity and her maidenhood. And then when she hits the city, things change. In Dublin, when she becomes the mother, the washerwoman, and is associated with a particular problem that emerges in the novel about a mysterious crime that's committed by the Phoenix culprit in Phoenix Park in Dublin. And then when she makes her way the river Liffey makes its way back to the sea, she is returning in her elderly cronehood, and the final phase of her life, she's going back to the Irish Sea. And that's where you get this notion of the returning to the Father. Because what then happens is a kind of a bisexual conception with the sea being, of course, the great mother from which all things come. But once she reaches the sea, by the natural processes of nitrogen circulation and so forth, she evaporates. What a way to go. I think I like that. Just evaporates, and she's gone. And the evaporation creates the clouds that circulate over Glendalough, rain down into Glendalough, and then she becomes the Virgin again. And hence, famously in the novel, the last sentence has no punctuation and leads directly into the first sentence of Finnegan's Wake in an endless cycle of descent and return. And that's kind of the key myth in many ways, because what is descending, after all, is Anima Mundi, Sophia, the divine feminine energy of life, is what is coming down into the material world. And this Gnostic, Kabbalistic mythology of the fallen Shekinah or the fallen Sophia or Anima Mundi becomes a very important theme that goes all the way through the work. So I wanted to give tribute to her. And she was treated by Jung unsuccessfully and spent basically the rest of her life institutionalized. And Joyce was, of course, very deeply attached to her. And so it's out of that connection with Joyce and his daughter in Finnegan's Wake that this remarkable young dancer emerges, Jean Erdman. And she had begun her career working, as you know, with Martha Graham. So she'd been in many mythologically themed dances associated with Martha Graham, who Mary reminded me, graduated from Santa Barbara High School. And she got frustrated, with the sense of restriction and some degree of domination. The dance world is fierce, right? Fiercely competitive. And she just said, I've had enough. I'm going to do my own dances. And she broke away and she created her own company, which became the Open Eye Foundation in New York. So here are a couple more pictures of her. I just remember Campbell saying, God, she was full of life. Just, full of life. And a really creative, original. I don't know any dance vocabulary, so I can't describe what's going on here. It requires a whole new, vocabulary of what's going on to talk about it, coming out of traditional ballet and then moving. There are DVDs, and I have an old VHS recording of her group dances. And as this is a crummy screen capture, that gives you some sense of the number of dances that she did, and many of them inspired and based on mythological themes. And this comes from a very brief YouTube celebration of her 100th birthday, and she died just a few years back. And apparently, I was told, I think by Bob Walter, when he went to Hawaii, there's a whole box full of letters between Jean and Joe that nobody has ever really had access to. And boy, that would be interesting. So I did manage eventually to find originally an LP that has the whole performance on it. It's too long to really do much with today. But then found a more recent CD that's got the script and the audible component of the performance, and the most extraordinary little notes on the side that tell you what page from Finnegan's Wake and what line in what page the script was taken from. And then you'd start to look at it more carefully, and they're taken from the whole book. It's not like just picking one passage, but it will jump, back and forth from one line in the script to the other. So just putting that thing together from Finnegan's Wake was quite extraordinary. We'll circle back to this, Santos, when we show some of the performance. One of my favorite motifs in the book is basically a Gnostic Kabbalistic mythology of the fallen Sophia, who is lured into the material world in some versions, who falls into the world of matter in others. In other versions, she casts her shadow on the surface of the deep, and her shadow is trapped by the demons of the deep, who are called the archons in the mythology of the Gnostic world. And the need is to liberate the soul of the imprisoned feminine from the prison and the torment of the material world, which is often represented by the masculine energies of the abyss. So this particular brief selection from Finnegan's Wake, illustrated by John Vernon Lloyd, there in a wonderful folio edition of Finnegan's Wake. On the left there, the illustration that goes with this particular mythology, in which you will see the Analypha Pluribel, Anima Mundi Sophia figure standing up there in the balcony banisters, and she's wearing a light dress spun of Sistine shimmers, a light dress spun of Sistine shimmers, and she's looking down on the archons of the deep who are fighting, to get her, and she will be trapped by them when she falls into the material world. Just a brief attempt to get some feeling for the language before we take a look at the interview. Nuvoletta, in her light dress spun of Sistine shimmers, was looking down on them, leaning over the banisters and listening all she childishly could. She listened as she reflected herself, though the heavenly one, with all his constellaria and his emanations, stood between. The heavenly one is the Enself for the creation of the constellations of the material world that separate her from her spiritual origins. Then Nuvoletta reflected for the last time in her little long life, and she made up all her myriads of drifting minds in one. She canceled all her engagement. She climbed over the banisters. She gave a childy, cloudy cry, Nuée, Nuée. A light dress flutters. She was gone. And the book goes like that beautifully for 600 pages. My grandfather in New York said it was a great cure for insomnia. And I think maybe I need to start reading Finnegan's Wake again. So my good fortune was to be in New York for the final performance of the dance. And this would have been early 80s, I suppose. But at any rate, she was quite spectacular. It was particularly moving when she danced her concluding return to the Father, Mother of the Sea, which is a very tender and moving part of the whole performance. And here is this wonderful image by John Vernon Lloyd of Analypha Pluribel, the fallen soul of the world, returning to the sea for recycling and renewal when the rains come to Glendalough, outside of Dublin. I won't try to read the concluding section, that goes with the script for her circular return, descent and return, manifestation, and then the return to the source, incarnation and disincarnation as a cycle. So that's a very quick introduction to Finnegan's Wake and to the performance. And I'm going to ask Santos now to play the YouTube, which is readily available. It has this interview. I have to warn you, it's old. It's dark. It's not sophisticated filming. I might interject a little bit just to give some guidance when the dance actually starts. Okay, so Santos, if you want, can you go ahead with the... Oh, good.
The Coach of the Six Insides is a fascinating blend of mime, dancing, and acting, and music based on James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. It opened off Broadway 2 years ago and immediately walked off, or I'd better say danced off, with two major awards for theater achievement. The Vernon Rice Award of the New York Drama Desk and the Obie, another highly prized off-Broadway laurel. And then there followed a highly successful series of performances at three important European festivals, Spoleto, Paris, and Dublin. And subsequently, after a Canadian and American tour, the Coach took off for Hawaii and Japan, where it made history as the first American play in English to be seen in Tokyo. And as if that were not enough, widespread demands have brought about a recent decision to send the Coach out through the United States again in 1965. I find the creator of the Coach for the Six Inside somewhat difficult to characterize. She is a concert dancer of note. She's a choreographer. She's been a performer in the theater. She's been a director in the theater. And when I was most puzzled, I came across this. When the Coach opened in Chicago, Donald Henahan, the Chicago Daily News critic, expressed his delight this way. He says, "Who imagined that Finnegan's Wake could be dramatized? Jean Erdman, that's who. Bless her Joycean soul. She gave me as rich an evening as I've enjoyed in many a season." And perhaps Joycean soul would sum it up, Jean. What led you to dramatize Finnegan's Wake?
Well, it's a wonderful thing to find a piece of writing that is just made for a choreographer. And that's what Finnegan's Wake is. It's full of, all the language is rhythmic and poetic, has many, many layers of meaning. It's very suggestive. You should never try to decide what one meaning is, because there are at least 20 for every sentence, you see? So that in the language of movement, which can carry images quickly and you can get meanings quickly out of movement, so this language doesn't bind you down to defining things. And as I began my career dancing with pure movement, I realized that a vital rhythm is what's necessary in the theater. It doesn't matter whether you just sit still or whether you move around. It isn't only in dancing that rhythm counts, you see, or music. So as I added different elements to my works, I found finally that with this written material, I was able to find actors to move in with me as though they were dancers, and I found the right composer in Teiji Ito and the right designer in Milton Howarth, who did the designs for the stage show.
In other words, Finnegan's Wake turned out to be a natural for
It's a natural
dance
for a choreographer who wants to make a total theater event.
Now, we're going to see only a small portion of what's a full evening in the theater. Will you set the stage for us?
Yes, well, we're going to do now just the second half of the first act. And there are 3 acts, you see. It goes on for quite a while. But here we will start with the family. You know, we are all inside the mind of this dreamer, Mr. Earwicker. And, the title...
The tavern keeper in Dublin.
That's right. And inside of his mind, we, in the dream, his wife, his 2 sons and daughter, and it is like an archetypal family of the world, of mankind. We're all looking around for the meaning of the past and for the past.
His past and your past.
Our past, everybody's past.
In other words, here comes everybody.
That's right.
Well, Stay with camera 3 then as we go into the dreaming mind of Mr. Joyce's Dublin tavern keeper.
I would like to play a little bit of this, and then we'll have to move forward. And I'll show you where Jean comes on if you don't recognize her. They're going to be scratching around in the park looking for a letter.
It is well known.
Oh, that he lays dormant, from the macroburg of Holdhard to the microburg of Pied de Poudre.
The silence speaks the scene. Fake.
Here she comes.
So this is the U-blow.
Walk a gun blink round with this albutile. And you shall see how old he plain of my elders. Countless as of live stores have never fallen by this plague. Thick as flowflakes slitters from aloft, like a vast wizard all of worlds. Now all attuned to the mound, Ishkis to Ishkis, Erda from Erda.
Can you read its words?
It is the same toll of all.
Old Grilsy Drowsy. He was poached on in that tentacle spot.
He may be humpy, nay, he may be dumpy, but there is always something racy about, say, a sailor on a horse.
He comes out of the soil very well after all.
Stench.
What a meat, old meat, old meat.
How the things are here too. Oh, stoop to please. Creakies from age, and now all quite obsolete. And old Wally Wobbly Ewis too. Hard worth a wipe of grass. See the snake worms every side.
Our Dublin is swarming in sneaks, racketeers, and buttloggers.
The litter.
Letter, carried of Sean, son of Heck, written of Shem, brother of Sean, uttered for Alp, mother of Shem, for Heck, father of Sean.
What clashes here? Initialed G. Gone, 31 Jan, 1132 A.D. Not known at 1132 A. Sin Jetty Pierce. Opened by Miss... Take.
Drowned in the Lansing.
Search unclaimed M-A-L-E. Back in few minutes.
Gee, it's Kate.
Already buried. Back to the P.O. to be soiled. Sender, Boston, Mass.
And yet may we not see still the Brontoictian form outlined a slumber, even in our own nighttime, that Bronto loved. And Brunto has a lean on.
The letter. The letter! No answer!
No answer. With lips she lispeth to him all to time of such and such on so and so.
She, he, she, ho, she, ha, to la.
For the producer, Mr. John Baptist our vicar, caused a deep obliviousness to descend upon the father of truants. And at a side issue, Bluter promptly brought forth on the scene the cutlet-sized consort. Foundling filly of 40-shilling Foster Taylor and Shipman shop Ahoyden, weighing 10 pebble 10 and scaling 5 pussy 5, spanning 37 inches round the good companions, 29 ditties round the wishful waitress, 37 also round the answer to everything, 23 of the same on each of the quiz supper bits, 14 round the beginning of happiness, and nicely 9 on her shoes for slender.
Luke, if he could bad twig her. Sure, she's nearly as bad her as him herself. Who? Anna Olivia. You know she was calling that bandit's house from all around to go and kill him, her erring chief, and tickle the pontiff. Aye, she was. But little I thought she'd act that lower. Tell me, Moa. Well, old Humper was as glum and as gracious, sitting samber on his head.
So she's now going to, we're going to go forward to the concluding part of the dance after they find the accusatory, incriminatory letter that she scratches up from a dung heap and pecks at that and gets who committed the crime in Phoenix Park, right? And as we move now forward,
Gene Erdman's The Coach with the Six Insides.
Incredibly creative place, you know, with the combination of people like John Cage and Merce Cunningham and Gene and the composers of the likes of Teji, who was Maya Daren's husband. and the collaborations of the sort that could only have happened in New York, as far as I understand, in those times after the war when the whole center of modern art was in New York. So I apologize for the brevity of that brief introduction. I won't go through the 3-4 hour performance, which you can actually find, just with a little bit of digging. We're going to return to the sea now, and I can't thank our presenters enough for the generosity of spirit that you've offered us, and with a very, very precious day, too. Just extraordinary stories and images and art. I'm extremely grateful. I know it's not easy to travel anymore. I don't think I want to go anywhere beyond the Santa Barbara County line for the rest of my life. I'm just kind of done with it. But anyway, I really want to thank you all so much. So please have a hand for Hallie and Maureen, Charlene and Joan, and for Devin. And Monica's not here anymore, but we'll give her I'll communicate our gratitude as well to her. I wasn't sure how to finish an event up like this. I did think of a beautiful song. Monica, we were just acknowledging our gratitude for everybody's participation and contribution, and you are among those, so thank you. There's a wonderful song I thought about playing, Roseanne Cash, gorgeous song, called When the Master Calls the Roll. It's about Civil War, and quite remarkable, ending with the lines, "Can this union be preserved?" It's just a gorgeous song. But right now I'm beyond my capacities for technology, so I'm not going to try to transition to playing a song. I thought what I would like to do is read a brief poem by Robinson Jeffers, with the title of which has been going through my mind for the last month or so. It's called Shine, Perishing Republic. Shine, Perishing Republic. And it was written after the First World War, where various things were beginning to emerge that he famously did not like very much. So I'll read most of the poem. I left a little bit of it out. While this America settles in the mold of its vulgarity, heavily thickening to empire and protest, only a bubble in the molten mass pops and sighs out, and the mass hardens. I sadly smiling remember that the flower fades to make fruit, the fruit rots to make earth. Out of the mother and through the spring exultances, rightness and decadence, and home to the mother. You making haste on decay, not blameworthy. Life is good, be it stubbornly long, or suddenly a mortal splendor. Meteors are not needed less than mountains. Shine, perishing republic. But for my children, I would have them keep their distance from the thickening center. Corruption never has been compulsory. When the cities lie at the monster's feet, there are left the mountains. A beautiful poem. Uncanny, really, isn't it? That history does circle around. So, from here, I don't know what else to say apart from thank you and express my gratitude, and to indicate that there will be a way to access the events with all of the presentations that will be communicated to you through Opus and Steve. And we'll have a nice, both a memory and a foundation, for something moving forward, whatever form that may take. And of course, this is a very special event that needs to be recorded and to move forward. So may you return to the mountains, to the sea, to the freshets of the creeks, to the brook at Glendalough, rushing down into Dublin, where you can stop over for a pint at the pub and read Finnegan's Wake to each other if you need to try to fall asleep and you can't. So thanks, everybody.